Welcome to the lab setup part 2, and in this part what we're going to do is install our Windows 11 VM. So follow the link in the walkthrough. You'll be taken to this page when you select Windows 11 Enterprise, and then you just complete the data in the forms and then submit it and then download your Windows 11 ISO. Make sure that you download Windows Enterprise because we want to make sure that we have the capability to use networking and other capabilities that are not included with versions such as Windows Home version. Okay, so once we've downloaded the Windows ISO, the same as we did before, I'm going to add the new machine by right-clicking on the group, but you could also do it from the menu. Now you name the virtual machine. I'm just going to name this Windows 11. I'm going to go ahead and preface that with size up so I can keep track of it. And in Windows 11, and once again, the folder is this is where you're going to save your VM. And then the ISO image is where you download it. So I just downloaded a new ISO, and I'll go to my downloads folders. And there's the new ISO. And I'll select open. So this is Windows 11. It automatically recognized it. So the edition and the type and the version did an autofill. I am going to skip the unintended installation, and then in the drop down for hardware, I'm going to go ahead and just keep this at 4 gigabytes. I'll bump this up to 4 CPUs, depending on how many you have. Actually, I'm going to bump this up to 8 just because I have a lot of RAM on my system, but you could run the Windows VM with anywhere from 4 to 8, preferably 8 if you have enough memory. Remember, you also think about you'll be running your Ubuntu server at the same time that you're running your Windows server or your Windows 11 VM. So if you only have 16 gigabytes of RAM in your system, then you'd have to split half of that, 4 and 4, to each virtual machine. All right, so now we do the drop down on a hard disk, and I will, right now it's at 80 gigabytes, and I'm just going to up that to 100. No real reason to do that. 80 should be enough because on this Windows system, you're going to use that for a couple different things, but it's not going to need a whole lot of space. Keep the use existing virtual hard disk unselected and do not add the virtual disk. Now, if we go back up to the hardware, we do want to make sure that you've selected Enable EFI. So what that is, Windows 11 does require that. So make sure that is enabled, and it should auto-populate for you. So once you've done that, you can select Finish, and then we want to go to Settings. So under Settings, what we want to do is ensure we go to System, because EFI is selected right here. This is all blanked out. So we'll go down to Network. And at Network, I want to change this to Bridged, and this will auto-populate just as it did before. We'll go ahead and select OK, and now we're ready to start it. So I'll select Start. Now you want to press any key. It's sort of a race condition. You have to press any key really quick or else it's not going to start to install. Looks like we were successful, so we are installing. So once again, choose your language and your time, select Next. I'm keeping the keyboard as US. I'll select next. And I want to install Windows 11. And I agree everything will be deleted, including files and apps and such. Now we want to go ahead and accept those terms. And we can go ahead and we're going to install it in this unallocated space. So I can just go ahead and select next. And we're ready to install. And it's just telling us that we are going to install Windows 11 Enterprise Evaluation, and we're going to keep nothing on that disk. So now we're installing, and you can see the percent complete. I'm going to pause the recording until the installation is complete, or we're prompted to provide some sort of input. Now, obviously, the installation is continuing, but the computer's already restarted once, and it may restart several more times. So this does take some time to install Windows. So be patient. As you see, mine is still installing, and it's been going for about 10 minutes or so. And I'll go ahead and pause the recording again. Okay, so now we're pretty far along on the installation, and there's some input required. So first thing it's asking is the country or region. I'm just going to click yes on US. Same with the keyboard. I want to skip adding a second keyboard. And now it's checking for any updates. All right, so now they're ready to further set up. So what I'm going to do at this point is select sign-on options. And I'm going to select domain join instead. And what that will do is that will prevent you from having to provide any account information, Microsoft account information. So you can give it a name. I'm just keeping it simple with student once again. And then you give it a password. And then you confirm your password. You can set your security questions. And what I'm going to do, and once again, I do not recommend this in the production environment. I'm just using the same thing for every security question. And I just do that in these labs with virtual machines because I run so many virtual machines. It's next to impossible to keep track of all the passwords and security questions. Now, obviously, I do not do that in the production environment. All right, so it looks like Windows is starting for the first time. So while this is continuing to run, I'm going to pause the video again. Okay, we're now complete. The virtual machine has started. So what we want to do now is to make sure that we have an internet connection. So I want to type in CMD to bring up the command prompt. And the first thing I'll do is run ipconfig to get our IP address. And we see here we are at 192.168.0.66. So that is the right IP range. Remember, We set it up in bridge mode, so it's getting that IP address from my home router. Naturally, your IP address is going to be different, and even your IP range is probably going to be different. Now I just want to ping 8.8.8. And as you can see, the ping was successful, so I have the internet connection. So the next thing I want to do is to get the IP address of my Ubuntu server and make sure that I can ping the Ubuntu server. So I've just restarted it. I'll just need to log in and ensure that the password has not changed. And I'll run ifconfig. And it is 192.168.0.145. So I'll minimize, or I'll go back to my Windows machine. Ping 192.168.0.145. So I can successfully ping my Linux machine. So we have our Windows VM up and running, and that's all we're going to configure for now. As we get into the labs in the future, we will install Sysmon and do some other configuration. But for now, for the initial lab setup, we have both our Ubuntu server, we have the Docker engine installed with the Splunk Docker container, and then we also have our Windows VM up. So that is it for initial lab setup. So the last thing we want to do is to power off that Windows machine. And then we want to take a snapshot. And once again, this snapshot just captures the current state. And right now we know that the current state is a clean Windows install. And that way, if we break it later on, as we make adjustments to it in each lab, we can always revert back to the clean state. And I'll just name this particular snapshot clean state. And once that's complete, we've completed this portion of the lab, and we'll jump into the next lesson.